Let's now welcome Associate Professor of Latvian Language Institute of the University of Latvia and Department of Languages of the University of Helsinki, Dr. Laimute Balode, with the first keynote speech, How do we call each other on Ethnonyms, Endonyms, and Exonyms? Welcome, the floor is yours.
Good morning, dear guests. Good morning, dear colleagues. My name is Laimute Balode. I am linguist, onomastician, half Latvian, half Lithuanian, working more than 40 years on Baltic toponyms, mainly on the place name dictionary of Latvia. But today I'm supposed to speak about another group of onyms, and these are ethnonyms, both endonyms and exonyms. So my aim of my report is to summarize previous scientific conclusions about the origin of the name of Baltic countries, Lithuania, Latvia, and Estonia, and to speak in terms. These are horonyms, proper names of larger geographical or administrative unit of land, which are closely connected with ethnonyms. And ethnonyms, names of an ethnic group, nation, tribe, clan, or other ethnic community. These terms are from the list of terminology of ICOS. ICOS, it's International Council of Onomastic Sciences. So the history of these names is rather complicated and has long been the subject of discussion among linguists, historians, and ethnographers, and also archaeologists. But I will start again speaking from terminology on the influence of the yesterday our conference theme. Then I will speak about Estonians and Estonia. After that, about other southern neighbor, Lithuanians and Lithuania. And I will finish speaking about Latvians and Latvia. So this is plan of my presentation. Let us start from terminologies. So ethnonyms are divided into endonyms and exonyms. So endonyms, or sometimes called also autonyms, a name used by a group or category of people to refer to themselves. So it is their self-designated name for themselves or their homeland or their language. And endonyms, or Latvians call also this endonym as pašnosaukums, so this translated term. And the other group, exonyms, or sometimes they use also term xenonym, so external name of a place, people, or language used by foreigners instead of the native language version. So non-native name for a geographical place, group of people, language, or dialect. These exonyms exist not only for historical geographical reasons, but also in consideration of difficulties when pronouncing foreign nouns or foreign names. These exonyms are also divided into several groups. Several divisions can be also. One of these are real exonyms, or they called also lexical exonyms, so names with different roots. And of course, you have heard this most popular example about Deutschland, which is called in different countries in different name: English, Germany, Russian, Germania, Lithuanian, Vokietija, Latvian, Vācija, Finnish, Saksa, and so on. The second group, the same root, but in a different form, spelling, pronunciation. Here is example, London in different languages. And the third group is calques, or literal translations, then the name is translated as example Czernagora. So in English or German, it's Montenegro, in Lithuanian, Juotkalnija, in Latvia, Melnkalne, and so on. But there are also other divisions, and it's given by Czech onomastician Milan Harvalik. He has mentioned such exonyms as lexical, morphological, grammatical, phonetic, and so on. Usually, speaking with my students in Finland, in the University of Helsinki, when we are speaking about exonyms and endonyms, we use such a table from internet, and we are asked to highlight all exonyms in red color and all endonyms in blue color. And usually we are very surprised how this table looks reddish. So how many exonyms we have? I'm not sure if you can see now, but on the right corner, there is, for example, this name of Sweden. And you can find there these nice examples, not only endonyms in Norwegian and in Danish, also Sverige as endonym of these Swedes themselves are calling themselves, but also Švecia, Švedia, Zviedria, and even lexical exonyms such as in Finnish Ruotsi or in Estonian Rootsi. These are only some examples of country names, but I tried also to write this our closest neighbors or most often used exonyms, and you see how many red color also here. Now you can mention or notice this Polish name. In Lithuanian we have Lenkai, in Latvian Puoli, Estonian Polakat, no Finnish Puolalaised. And Russians in Lithuanian Rusai, and the same root, but in Latvian Krievi, from Krivichi it comes, from one tribe of Russians, and Estonians Venelaset are called, and Finns are calling Venelaiset. Usually students are joking that it comes from Vene, and Vene in the Finnish it's boat. So people who are coming with boat, but it's not true. It's folk etymology. Vene, it comes from Venedi or Proto-Germanic word of Slavic tribe. About Eslaset, so Estonians in Lithuanian Este, in Latvian Igauni, but Finns are calling them Virolaiset. And I will speak about this name later, but it comes from Virumaa, and Virumaa is the northern part, northern territory, which were close to Finland. A little bit more about tense. So there are debates. Are ethnonyms considered as onyms? Lithuanians and Latvians do not think that they are onyms, that they are proper names. But if we look to this list of ICOS, it's in 2010, they are writing and thinking that ethnonym is a proper name of an ethnic group. And there are also a lot of examples. But there is also note that ethnonyms are not treated as proper names in some languages or also by some scholars. And there is an example in Spanish, and only Spanish is mentioned there. According to some theories, ethnonyms are proper names both in plural and singular. But in other theories, ethnonyms only in plural are proper names, but in singular they are treated as appellatives. How is in our languages? So the question is the same. Do ethnonyms belong to the group of common nouns or to the group of proper nouns, proper names? And these are capitalized or lowercase. So you know that in many languages we write ethnonyms with capital letter, but in our languages we do not do it. The main criteria for the arguments in this debate, this semantics of ethnonyms. Traditionally, many German onomaticians classify ethnonyms as a group of the proper names, collective personal names. In Slavic languages, the prevailing view is that ethnonyms are distinctive nomenclature words that are essentially closer to terms than to onomastic lexica, so they are not proper names. Finnish linguists consider ethnonyms to be common nouns and so not proper names. And in Finnish, usually they are derived from adjectives. In Latvian linguistics, ethnonyms are usually considered to be common nouns, and there is a quotation from our last dictionary of linguistic terms. However, contemporary Latvian onomasticians are increasingly referring ethnonyms as proper names. And there is a quotation from 2007 that ethnonyms are listed on this row of proper names or onyms. The debate was updated in Latvia by our colleague Ojārs Bušs, also by Eugen Coseriu, it's from Romania, from Belgium, Willy von Langendonk, Klaas Williams, and so on. Where is written that ethnonym is onym, so name of a group of people, but in pluralia tantum, so in plural. And the criteria that incline towards such a belief are related to the semantics of ethnonyms and the way and stage of describing the semantics. So in Latvia, we use only plural form, calling onyms. I will not speak about such terms which are related also to this item as ethnographonym, ethnochoronym, macroethnonym, microethnonym, or ethnicon. I will use today, speaking about my theme, only ethnonym, exonym, and endonym. And now let's speak about most interesting things about these ethnonyms and horonyms of our nearest neighbors. And let us start from Estonia and Estonian. And I have to start with such sentence that the name of the territory and country cannot be separated from ethnonym. The plan will be such as I will start from history of name, then I will speak very shortly about hypothesis, about possible etymons and current usage. We will start from 12th century or 13th century, where or even on the maps we can see these names, and about Estonia speaking, there is already such form. We do not have time to analyze maps in detail. These are maps of different ages, but on all of these maps, even 17th century, we can find these names of territory or even of ethnonym of the name of the nation. But started so from the very beginning, so the name of modern Estonia, it's Eesti and Estonians Eestlased, have a complex history. Until 18th and even the mid of the 19th century, endonym Marah was used, and it's the name of Estonian origin, and it means country people, village people, peasants, or farmers. Attempts have been made to trace its origin back even around the first millennium, but no evidence has been found. Another hypothesis of this name interprets as a medieval literal translation from the German landfolk, people of the land. Besides that, Estonian tribes and sometimes other Baltic Sea Finnic nations are described in Russian chronicles by exonym chud. Latvians are saying chudi, Lithuanians chude. It's from Russian chud with the meaning foreign, stranger. The current ethnonym Estlaset refers to the tribes mentioned by Tacitus in his Germania. Latin form Esti or Estiorum Gentes, where Estonians are described alongside Germans and Goths. And most scholars believe that the name was applied to the present-day Baltic tribes, while others consider it to refer to entire eastern region of the Baltic Sea. Such very similar ethnonym as Esti in different forms, also mention it in the 6th century and in works of Cassiodorus. So here are these names. Adamus Bremensis mentions 3 islands in the 11th century, and the northernmost of them is called Estland. A form, as you can see here, Estlatum, was found in Scandinavian runes in the 11th century. But what is the origin of this root, Esti, and as in this contemporary ethnonym Estlaset? I just managed to find 4 interpretations of this possible etymology, and Estonian linguist Riho Grünthal have written about it. Can you see now? Something it's not moving.
We can see slide number 19.
Yeah, is it so? Yeah, because it stopped to move. Sorry. So the first, advocates of German origin derive the name from Gothic root, this meaning owner. It's one of these possible hypotheses. Second hypothesis is Baltic hypothesis, and expressed by Lithuanian linguist Simas Karaliūnas, and he compares the name in question with the place name in Kurzeme or Kurland, Aistere, or small river in Lithuania, Aistos upe, and this is the meaning land or field, and he's thinking that Aisčiai, its Lithuanian form, are people of the land. And by the way, in the Lithuanian press, even in 19th and beginning of the 20th century, Aisčiai were referred to all Lithuanians and other Baltic tribes. Also, here is one map where we can see the 17th century, this form of Aisčiai. The third hypothesis is based on Scandinavian saga, and the name associated with Germanic root with the meaning east. So you can see Old Norse, Icelandic, Danish, Swedish, these words and roots. And semantically, its explanation seems very acceptable, east, so eastern part. But phonetically, and we have very strict these historical phonetical rules, these changing of A, I, and A does not correspond to the historical diphthong O. So it is also discutable things. And the fourth, attempts have been made to find a Latin origin, explaining by Latin word with the meaning flood or with the meaning lagoon. As to the texts of Grunthal or articles of him, this first Germanic and third and Baltic second hypothesis of this ethnonym consider it more plausible. Now the name of territory. So the earliest source is considered to be the Norse saga, second half of the 12th century, and this Eastland is was used in modern sense with this diphthong A, Eastland. Danish historian Saxo Grammaticus in his Gesta Danorum also mentioned this country as Hestia or Estia and ethnonym Estones. A well-known Arab geographer Al-Idrisi in his map also marked such form, and which is believed to refer to the present-day Estonia or to the part of even Latvia belonging at that time to Livonia. The Scandinavian name Eastland reached German by replacing the diphthong A to the E. And first of all, it was long vowel A, Eastland, and then it was shortened, and now we have Estland. And later, from German, they spread in many other countries of Europe. Latin name Estonia, also known from Chronicle of Henry, and derived from plural form of the Latin etonym Estones. Now about Esti and Estima. It was already in the 19th century during the national revival, then form Esti established, and the name was circulated by Estonian writers, by journalists, and first issue was the newspaper Perno Postimees in the middle of 19th century, which addresses its readers as Terre armas ehti rahvas. It means, hello, dear people of Estonia. At the beginning of the 20th century, even both forms were used parallelly, Estima or Esti, and this Esti less frequently. But nowadays, Esti is the standard form, but Estima became only poetism, so this word of higher style. And one more slide about this current usage of these languages in other countries. So from German, as I said, Estland, now they use in Swedish, in Norwegian, Danish, and Dutch. And in Icelandic, it's interesting that they have preserved this ace, this more ancient form. From Latin, Estonia, now it's used in Spanish, Polish, English, and so on. Apparently from Estonian, Esti, direct derivative is in Lithuania, and they have Estia, only this suffix "ia," and in Livonian, Estimo. And Finns, as I have already mentioned, have interesting exonym, Viro, and this ethnonym Virolainen, which derived from Viruma, the name of the historical independent territory with which Finns had the closest contacts. Once more, this interesting thing, this Viruma, closer to Finland. But what with Latvian? With Latvian name Igauni and Igaunia, which we use for Estonia. So this is clear exonym, historically used by form Ugaunia, associated with this Ugaunia, a place name for the southern part of Estonia, and which was for the first used in Chronicle of Henry of Livonia. And there are different forms pronounced with U, Ugaunia, in Latin, such forms in Low German, and a lot of variants in Estonia. I will show you one map where you can see this Ugandi, here this Estonian form. Today, it is roughly corresponds to territory which is in the southeast and half of Tartu and Valga. It's approximately here. The origin of this name is linked to the name of mountain called Uandimägi, and it's near Otepää. I couldn't find a nice map, but you can see here Uandimägi, and near Otepää. This photo is of this mountain or hill. However, there is also another hypothesis that this name comes from Slavic origin, from Jug, and with the meaning south. In modern Latvia, there are two distinct place names. One is a respective county name, the same Ugandia, and Latvians are calling now Ugaunia. Country name is Igaunia, and ethnonym is Igauni. It's already tradition, and I do not think that we have to change it. Let us run very quickly now to the southern, our neighbors, so to Lithuania, and let's speak about it also in the same plan. Short history, hypothesis, possible etymons, and current usage. The name of Lithuania is not entirely clear, but the first mentioned it in 11th century in Annales Quedlinburgensis, and where it said that Saint Bruno, and archbishop and monk, was slain by pagans during the 11th year and on the border with Russia and Lithuania. There is mentioned form Litue, so it's genitive form, and most likely this form reached the office of the chronicle from Slavs. We can compare with Polish contemporary form Litva and Russian Litva. In Russian chronicles, the term referred not only to the land or territory, but also to its inhabitants. The East Slavs would have probably heard such horonym from Lithuanians themselves, and we can compare this Litva from Lietuva. Phonetically, E comes from E, this E comes from E, and this E from ancient Baltic A. Again, these are strict phonetical rules. In German, the form was mentioned in documents of 12th and 13th century, and there is German E, which corresponds to diphthong E. In Latin, Lithuania was called Letovia, and in different forms, as you see, Rex Letovia, and so on. While ethnonym Lithuanians in Latin was called in two ways, in Letovini, and this is ini, supposed to be a Slavic suffix ini. We can compare with Polish contemporary Litvini, and sometimes Letones with Latin suffix ones. But where is this root Lietuva, Lietu, or Lieta, where it comes from? Usually the most popular hypothesis is to connect it with river name or toponym. So it's the name of small tributary that branches from the river Neris. It's Lietuva. Nowadays, this river exists and we call it Lietauka with suffix ka. It's again a Slavonic suffix. But the root lieti, in Latvian we also have the same root liet. It means to pour, which is genetically leads to reconstructed Indo-European root lays is the same meaning, flowing or pouring. The term of motivation, it's more or less clear. The river flows in the lowlands and it has low banks, so it easily overflows. River name could be Lieta, and it's again reconstructed form with the suffix ava or uva. These suffixes are very popular, especially in hydronymy or Baltic hydronymy, and they very often used as synonymic suffixes. Now, you know, Daugava in Latvian, but Lithuanians are calling the same name Dauguva with uva. The term originally referred to small area, most likely between Neris, Nemunas, and Merkis. This is small map, but I hope you can see it. Here, Merkis, Neris, and Nemunas. But the only doubt is the fact that the river is very small, only 11 kilometers long, but it's not far from Kernave. It's lower, you can see this picture of Kernave, the center of the former Lithuanian statehood in 13th century. But in addition, it is mentioned that there may have been several such hydronyms, which we do not know nowadays. But it's not the only hypothesis. People are speaking and also linguists are writing about other hypotheses. One of them is romantic theory of the origin of the nation, which was widespread in 16th century, this hypothesis that Lithuanians were believed to be descendants of the Romans, and based on numerous lexical similarities between Lithuanian and Latin. Then also there were attempts to associate the name Lietuva with Latin litus and seashore. Also, such folk etymology which connects the Lithuanian lietus, rain, the same word in Latvia we have, but it's would be Lithuania as rainy land, but it's not the truth. At the same time, it doesn't stand up to criticism because it's not the land where it rains more. And one more recent hypothesis, again, it was expressed by Lithuanian linguist and etymologist Simonas Karaliūnas, and he thinks that this name is connected with Lithuanian lexeme leičiai, singular leitis, it's regiment or troops. And a distinct social group of Lithuanian society in the early Grand Duchy of Lithuania, and they were subordinated to Lithuanian ruler. It's not only his idea, also Lithuanian historian Dubonis has expressed earlier, but this last hypothesis seems unlikely. what Latvians think about Lithuania and how they are calling it. So in 17th century, we have Lietuviska zeme, Lithuanian land, or Leiša zeme. Georg Elger used Leiši, like ethnonym, but not for Lithuanians, but calling Poles. But Lithuanians he called Lietuvnieki. Latvians called Lietuva as Lietava. And this ava, as I said, these are very synonymic suffixes. Latvians know the ethnonym Leiši, the meaning Lithuanians, which according to Jānis Enzelins has been borrowed from the Curonians and used without stylistic restriction even before the current form ethnonym Lietuvieši. And this last one, which is standard now, recognized as a norm during the time of independent Latvia or the beginning of the 20th century. So this Lietuvis later became a word of high style and poetry. This Leiši now in mass media we see that use with a little bit pejorative meaning, but this Lietuvieši became a standard form. Current usage in this name in other languages, I will not stop. It's usually as endonym, only without ye, without iota. And many languages take this name from Latin. And very short time has left, but speaking about Latvians, so the first records, 11th, 13th century, for example, in Russian texts, we have Letigola or Letigolskaya zemļa. In Latin, we have Letia or Terra Retorum, in German, Letland. This name Letia in 14th century was used more narrow, sometimes broader, because till 17th century these legal terms were vague and they were changing all the time. In 17th, 18th century, we had Latviska zeme or Latviešu zeme, Latviju zeme, so land of Latvians. The first time when Livland was translated in Latvia, it was 17th century. Juris Alunāns, our poet and publicist, tried to make a new word, Latva, and he connected with such very rare verb, lat, to live harmoniously, to be in harmony. But it was not accepted. And when the name of the country, Latvia, the first use of this name in Latvian texts, it was in Pēterburgas avīzes in a newspaper in 1862. Later, the other newspapers, our poets and the National Awakening, our outstanding people as Artis Kronvalds, Auseklis, and so on used it. But this Latvia with ending ia was coined according to the pattern as Francia, Italia, Austria, and so on. Also the middle of the 19th century. It's rather new. The name of country Latvia was coined from ethnonym, of course, and this ethnonym is much earlier as Leti, recorded in 13th century and used both to Latvians and Latgalian tribes. It's written Leti vēl Letigali. The oldest known use of ethnonym Latvis dates back to the 16th century and was later widely used in poetry. But contemporary Latvietis, of course, comes from Latvis, the suffix ietis, and it comes for the first time in 17th century. the origin where this root Latvis comes, also most popular hypothesis is connected this river name, potamonym, Latva or Latava. In Latvia, there is Latte or Latupe. In Lithuania also we have such root in potamonyms, and looking wider into Indo-European languages, it comes from Greek lataks, drop, or Irish sludge, mud, German clay, and so on. Where is this river? Nobody knows, so they're still discussing, and there are many possibilities. Longer things that in eastern Vidzeme and the Linz in the parish of Leesciem, Sojārs Bush, that is a tributary of Gauja in Gulbene district, but Lithuanian linguist Kazimieras Būga thinks that it's in Vilnius area. Also, there are current small rivers near Latvian border with Lithuanian, and this ethnonym may have already meant people living by this river, by Lata or Latava river. And the meaning could be analogous as Latvian Mālupe, clay river, or Dubļupe, mud river. And I tried to come to conclusions. So Latvians, from the point of view of the origins of self-designations, belong to the nation those ancestors lived by a river flowing in a clay riverbed or worked in clay fields. It's one of such hypotheses. Current usage in other languages, so most often it's endonym, and also with in Slavonic languages with all iota, in other languages without iota, and this Estonian Latti, which previously used also Swedes, Swedish said let, could be called exonym, originated from earlier names of Latvian nations. A lot of exonyms in Polish, Lotva, Czech, Lotyšsko, the name derived from adjective, from Letonia, from Latin forms, and so on. But I have to put the point. So sources which you can find this origin for Latvia, for a name of Lithuania, and for Estonia. Thank you. Paldies.
Yes, thank you, Dr. Laimute Balode, for the speech. Does the audience have any questions, comments, or feedback?
Maybe just one comment from me. Thank you. Very, very interesting and informative presentation. Excellent. And I wrote here also my comment, what I can say about Latvian as a language in German. In German, Latvian language is Lettish. And I just wrote, I get emails from Austria asking me to translate not into Lettish, but into Letlandish. I think it is from Letland.
Yeah, there are sometimes even misunderstanding because of this changing. We try to take ethnonyms and also territory names from English sometimes, and we try even to make a new forms from it. So these traditional old forms are coming under the impression and influence of these modern languages.
Yes, thank you. Does someone else have another question? Marie Bahkala.
Thank you very much for an interesting lecture. I would like to present my theory, and I would thank Silja Svike for her question, because I think the languages which tend to compounds are inclined to systematize, to form systemic names. For example, Este, der Estländer, we have both forms. And in analogy, I've been in search all the time you have been speaking, and I didn't find it, but it's a tendency to simplify this word formation processes, and in contrary, in the languages which tend to have a rich morphology, as Balto-Slavic and Slavic languages, they tend to have disposed at more forms which are not distinctive, but they are now in the situation that as to the frequency, some of them prevail. So we in Czech have, for example, Litevec, the inhabitant of Letland, Litva, Litvan, or Litevec, and the females, Litevka or Litvanka. So I must admit, I must search in the dictionary whether I'm right or not. My question, did you have some research in this direction as to the morphological processes in the modern languages from the synchronic point of view or from a microdiachronic point of view? Thank you.
Thank you for your question. You are right. Perhaps we are trying to put these names into some pattern, of course, but I do not have such research done about these names in other languages and other countries, because I tried to write the articles for encyclopedia, and only because they asked to mention how we are called now, I was forced to look to it, because I am not the researcher of these synchronic contemporary forms of ethnonyms, and it was not my field of research. But by this request of this article, I had to find it. And it's really very interesting, your view, and I have to look more deeper how it looks now, because these names are changing, really changing.
Because it's my hypothesis.
Yeah, thank you. Thank you.